Are there universal laws to reach wealth and success? Do you ever wonder why some people succeed no matter what they do while others fail miserably? Learn from the author of The Law of Abundance some principles to gain a life of luxury, balance, and happiness. Next on Living Smart. Hello, I'm Patricia GRAS. Welcome to Living Smart, the show designed to help you get the most out of life. Dr. Sherry Buffington trained as a psychologist. She spent over 3 decades focusing on motivation, performance, and success principles. She's an internationally known speaker, coach, trainer, and a pioneer in the field of personal transformation and human potential. She's also the author of several books, including The 7 Essentials of Lasting Success and Exiting Oz, how the new generation workforce is changing the face of business forever. Today we talk to her about her latest book, The Law of Abundance, and how loss of energy can impact and predict your human experience. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Patty. It's wonderful to be here.
Now I wonder, why is it that some people fail miserably in succeeding and others just do it so easily? What is it?
Those who succeed are following a formula. They may not know they're following it, but if we don't know what we're doing right, wrong, or indifferent, we can't correct that. Those who are succeeding, when you study successful people, which I've done for 30 years, they're following a very particular formula. Many don't know they're doing it. Like I said, they're unaware of it, but they're still doing it. For the rest of us who are not following that formula, knowing what we're doing right and what we're not doing right will allow us to move more purposefully in that direction and get the result we want.
That's what we're going to do today.
Absolutely.
What are the 2 most powerful forces on Earth for humanity?
There are 2, certainly, the huge forces, and most people don't understand them. They are the laws of energy. Everything is energy, including you and I. And so energy, the laws of energy impact everybody. And the other is the subconscious mind. And both of those are real underutilized, misunderstood, and underrated.
And that's what we'll explain today throughout the program so that we can become successful. Now, you said mindset is very important when it comes to the law of abundance. What do you mean by that, mindset?
Everything begins with mindset for the human. Our thoughts lead to, or our feelings lead to thoughts, thoughts lead to actions, actions lead to results. And if our thinking, if our mindset is such that we believe we can't succeed, you know, whatever you believe is true for you. So mindset is critically important as a beginning point. It's where the positive thinking and law of attraction, all of those things, focus on that piece. It's a critically important piece. It's not the whole piece, though.
And we hear from everybody, being an optimist is much better than being a pessimist, and
Absolutely.
it adds years to your life.
Absolutely.
The law of abundance, as you have said, has a lot to do with how energy works.
Yes.
So let's explain that to me. Explain what you mean.
Okay. Energy has very specific rules, very specific laws. They never fail. They are absolutely predictable, absolutely dependable, and if they weren't, we couldn't have the electrical appliances we have. We couldn't design products to run on electricity if the laws of energy were not totally predictable. They are totally predictable. If we understand how those totally predictable laws apply to us, and we're now following those laws, we're going to get totally predictable outcomes. And we do get totally predictable outcomes when you look at them. You know, the law of abundance doesn't guarantee what you're going to have an abundance of. Everybody has an abundance of something. We have an abundance of air to breathe, for example.
Right.
Some people have an abundance of things they want. Some people have an abundance of things they don't want.
Okay.
And it depends on how you're using those rules, the laws, as to whether we're having an abundance of what we want and what we don't want. So if you look at the electricity, if we take the law of abundance as it applies to electricity, and we say, okay, how does that translate to the human experience? It translates to the human experience because we are the generator. If you look at a typical light circuit, from the battery to the bulb, to light the bulb and make it work, that works because you have a source, an energy source, and what's beautiful about energy when you understand the laws of energy is that as we send energy out, energy seeks to return to its source.
It's a cycle, right?
It's a cycle. And in the human experience, we're the battery, we're the generator. The line out to a source is, for us, it's our actions, it's our application to life, it's the our ability or our willingness to send energy out. That's the line out for us.
Right.
If we're
That's
sending,
our attitude.
that's application. That's the application line.
Sorry, energy out.
And if we're sending it out to nothing, it's like putting a power line on the ground. A lot of energy going out, but nothing happening. Why? Because the ground is not designed to return anything to you. It just drains off your energy. So in the case of a full circuit for electricity, the line out goes to something. It goes to an appliance, it goes to a light bulb, it goes to something, to a receiver. For humans, the receiver is your attitude and your goals, or your
goals and
your
intent.
intent and your goals. So if your intent is clear, and if your goals are clear, and what your goals and intent are designed well enough to return to you what you intend, then then that line back to you, the flow back, because energy seeks to return to its source, that energy will return to you in kind.
Okay.
So if you're not getting the results you want out of life, you can bet that your receiver is not designed to return to you what you want.
Okay. Now, so basically the flow of energy is a circuit.
Absolutely.
And so you'll show us here what that means.
Yes.
With this model.
With this model, you're seeing the power source. You're seeing the line out, which to a receiver, and in this case, the receiver is a socket and a bulb, and you're seeing the line back to the source. This is a complete circuit.
Right.
Without that complete circuit, nothing happens.
Right.
And so, if we look at how humans are using this, we all know from studying electricity that you can stop energy, you can slow it, and you can reverse it. You can run it backwards.
Exactly.
So in the human experience, if we are slowing energy or stopping it, and we do that by adding resistance, this is a rheostat, and a rheostat changes the level of light as a result of resistance on the return line.
Okay.
So it's why the law of attraction works for people who have everything else in place, because they're removing resistance from the return line through that process. The law of abundance says that's one piece of the whole formula.
Okay.
So let's look at what happens in the human experience. So we have energy flowing. We have a complete circuit. We have energy going out, and we have a goal or an intent,
This
and we
is
have
the goal
energy,
and the intent.
and we have energy coming back. But imagine that we're looking at the economy today,
Right, right.
or we're listening to
The news.
And because of that, we begin to worry. We begin to feel fearful.
Right.
We are now struggling for or against an outcome. We're now being critical of what's going on in the world around us. And when that happens, we add resistors to our own return line. We're adding resistors. Stress is resistance. And so what happens then is, as we add stress and we add stress and we add more,
Fear and any negative emotion.
fear, negativity,
the energy dies down.
it goes down and down and down. And when we get down to where we're just barely lit, we just barely have any energy, we're moving toward depression. So we've got anxiety and depression at that point. And the goal is to, one, understand how energy works in your life, and two, is to remove the resistors from the line and start focusing on the right things.
Right, on that goal, along with positive attitude.
Yes.
All right, well, let's first define, because abundance can be money for some people, it can be health for other people, it can be a relationship. How do you define abundance? Is it personal?
It's all of those things. Abundance is whatever takes you to a place of what Aristotle years ago called eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is a sense of well-being and satisfaction and happiness and feeling successful. And there are people who feel very successful
Who are not wealthy.
Who are not wealthy. They don't, it's not about money for them. So wealth is part of it, but it's just part of it. And it depends on the culture you're in. So abundance is anything that makes you feel joyous and satisfied and content.
Now, obviously, The Secret, that movie, really brought to light the law of attraction. And a lot of people started doing the law of attraction, and a lot of people got frustrated.
Yes.
What was missing in the law of attraction? Because you always said, this goes further, Patty. Law of abundance goes further than the law of attraction.
Yes.
What was missing there?
Many things could be missing. When you look at this formula, there are actually 5 parts to this. The law of attraction talks about the return line. just the return line. Opening that up so that you're open to receiving. However, if we don't have energy flowing from self, how does energy flow from self? It flows from self as a result of passion and purpose and direction and a mission in life. If we don't have those, we don't have our own energy flowing.
Okay.
So that could be missing from the formula. The other really important part is having that clear goal. Being clear about what you want to be sending energy to, and being clear that what you're sending energy to is designed to return to you what you want.
Right.
That piece could be missing, and it often is. Many people don't have clear goals.
Right. Or you talked about subconscious, and I want to elaborate on that, because the subconscious understands how we speak in a certain way. For example, one of the biggest issues for most people is weight.
Yes.
And the first thing you say is, I want to lose weight. Why doesn't that statement work when it comes to the law of abundance and the subconsciousness and how the subconsciousness works?
Because the subconscious mind, like the law of energy, works on rules, and it's the rules that never, ever fail, that it never varies. And one of those rules is that it doesn't understand non-visual words. It's the subconscious mind, its language is emotion, story, the development of story, so images, imagery, and sensation. So a sentence like, I want to lose weight, there are only 2 words in that sentence that have any imagery to it. And those 2 words are lose and weight. And it depends on what the subconscious mind has translated lose to mean. It could mean that you lose your resolve. It could mean you lose your keys. It could mean you lose...
It's confusing the subconscious mind.
Yeah, it could mean that you lose the idea that you want to lose weight. And then it looks at weight, and weight is what now the focus. And you get what you focus on. So if the sentence, in this case, you're focused on loss and weight in separate terms, it doesn't put those 2 together. The conscious mind puts those 2 together, not the subconscious mind. And so the ultimate focus there is weight, and that's what you get.
So what should you say? Let's say I want to lose 20 pounds. What would you say to the subconscious mind?
You would say, I am fit.
Present tense.
I am, because it only understands the present tense. I am fit and healthy, and at my ideal weight of, and then you name your ideal weight.
And that then it understands because it's speaking in the present tense. It's positive.
And it's focused on what you want to be focused on.
And it's focused on what you want to be, which is fitness, health, wellness.
And that ideal weight.
The ideal weight.
Yes.
Perfect. So there's nothing negative about it.
There's nothing negative, and nor should there ever be.
Right. And when you have these goals, sometimes you get frustrated. I want to lose weight. And it's, you're not being in joy and happiness. You're just, oh, God, I've got to lose weight.
And that's that resistance line.
Exactly. Yeah. The negativity. So how important are thoughts or feelings when it comes to the law of abundance?
Critically important. Again, everything begins with the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is so much more powerful than people imagine.
Right.
It determines ultimately every outcome. It determines your motivation or lack thereof. It determines the actions you will or won't take. It determines your attitude, all of that. And so when we look at the return line, that's completely dependent on whether that's open or closed, whether there's resistors on it or not.
Right.
Depends completely on how you think and feel about circumstances, life.
And also how you talk.
How you talk,
If you talk positive, and I always tell people, watch what you're saying, because it may become when you say, I'm sick, well, or I'm going to be sick, or you have to watch what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, yes, and an interesting thing about that, we look at people and we say, that person is such a pain in the neck. Well, what the subconscious mind does with that is translates that to just what you just said, a pain in the neck. And who gets the pain in the neck? You do. You do.
Literally.
Literally, you get a pain in the neck.
So you really have to watch what you say and how you talk
Absolutely.
to people. Let's go over the 7 factors that are in alignment with abundance. And this also has to do with the laws of success.
Yes.
So the first one we have here is clear focus. A clarity test. Let's go over that.
The clarity test. The clarity test is, again, the importance of that receiver and the importance of living in the here and now. There are people who speak about, who dream about the outcomes they want, but they don't own them. And as long as you don't own something, the subconscious mind puts it in the future. And as long as it's in the future, it does nothing with it. And so the clarity test is looking at the life you want, the
Now.
life you desire, no, the life you desire, versus the life you now live.
Okay.
And when you weigh those two, if you have more ownership and more clarity around the life you now have than around the life you desire, guess where energy's flowing?
Right.
It's flowing to the life you now have, and so you're going to keep that. In order to change that, you want to change that energy. You want to focus on changing your energy and your ownership of which life you're focusing on.
Okay.
So you have the life you're living and the life you desire.
Okay.
Your focus needs to be on the life you desire, and when you take ownership of it, I use in the book an example of $100 million. Imagine that somebody came to you and said, you have in Switzerland $100 million in a bank account. But
I'm going there now.
Here's exactly. Here's some things you have to do to go claim that. One, you have to get there and do it. But here's some things that you have to do. Here's some behaviors. You have to learn self-management. You have to learn these 7 things.
Right.
Would you own that $100 million if you knew for a fact it was yours? And what would you do to get you there, to get you to Switzerland to claim it? That's what I mean in the book by clarity is a check waiting to be cashed.
Right.
When you own something and you know it's yours, nothing is going to stop you from getting it.
Okay. Open attitude.
The first of those 7 is self-awareness, because we can't get to open attitude and we can't get to clarity until we have that.
I'm sorry, I missed that. The
so-
authentic self-awareness is the first one.
Absolutely, it's critical, because if we don't know who we are, we can't know what we want out of life. And if we don't know what we want out of life, we can't have clarity around our goals. And if we don't have clarity around our goals, then we don't get to that next step of open, expectant attitude. How can we be open and expectant of positive things if we don't know what they are?
And the first one being authentic self-awareness, it has a lot to do with knowing who you are, being at peace, and really listening to yourself. And we don't do that. We don't live in a culture that allows us to be quiet,
right,
or to be out in nature, to really listen to that who we really are, because sometimes we think we know who we are and we don't.
Yes, and the other problem with that is that we know all of our mistakes, we know all of our foibles, we know all the things we've done wrong, and we tend to focus on those as opposed to all the things we do right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's human nature, isn't it? Another one, healthy boundaries, one of the laws.
Healthy boundaries, again, cannot occur if you don't know who you are.
Exactly, or what you want.
If I don't know who I am and what I want out of life, I cannot then determine who I am and who I'm not, and that's how healthy boundaries evolve. Who am I and who am I not? And who you are is who you came in the world to be, and it's all wonderful stuff. We all came into the world. I firmly believe we all have an area of brilliance, at least one area of genius that we can develop. It's not that we have to go create it; we have to just find it
inside of ourselves.
Inside us. And so when what we claim should feel good, it should feel joyous, it should make us happy. So when you say I am things that make me happy, I am things that make me joyous, I am things that energize and motivate me. I'm not all the things the world tells me I am. I'm not those. So I disown those.
Right.
The other part of personal boundaries is relationship boundaries, and it's a relationship with yourself,
right,
as well as a relationship with other people. So in the relationship forming boundaries, I will accept and I will not accept. So when we know what we will and will not accept, now we can build boundaries around that. Now we don't allow other people to impose on us.
Right, right. Self-confidence and self-esteem, they go hand in hand, right? Why do you have them as separate? Self-confidence first.
Well, because self-confidence is the piece that says, I can do it.
Okay, okay.
We're not going to attempt something if we don't believe we can do it.
Okay.
So that's the I can do it piece.
And the self-esteem?
The self-esteem piece is I'm worth the effort.
Oh, okay, okay.
And if I don't believe I'm worth the effort, the minute things come up as they do when we're learning new skills, then we stop, we give up. So that's why they're separate.
Self-management.
Self-management is what's often called emotional intelligence. It is the ability to interact with you, to act rather than react. It's the ability to interact rather than react. It's the ability to manage your own emotions and your own actions, so that once you've set that goal and you know what that looks like for you, you manage your actions and you manage your emotions in order to manage your outcomes.
Okay. Why do you say in your book that you have to have collective abundance to reach individual abundance? Why is that?
If you look at Africa, for example, Africa is not an abundant nation, and so
Or continent.
continent.
Yeah.
So the opportunity for abundance there is difficult to come by. We live in an abundant continent, an abundant nation.
Right.
So because we have abundance, we have a lot of opportunity to tap into abundance. So, and nobody ever does anything great ever on their own. But if we live in an abundant society, an abundant part of the
Mindset, it
world,
sounds
and,
like, right?
then we can tap into that abundant mindset. We can believe more fully that we're capable of something great.
And this goes back to attitude,
Absolutely.
right? You have to have an abundant attitude, otherwise it's very hard to get out of it.
Yes.
Why is humility necessary for abundance?
Humility is necessary because when we think we're all that, when we've literally shut ourselves off to other people. Humility allows us to be vulnerable to others. It allows us to continue to learn. And the minute we think we know everything, we're lost. We start going backwards.
But then you also say you have to have faith in yourself.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
If we don't have faith, the insulators, if we look at this, back at this pattern, you'll notice that both of these lines have rubber on them,
right,
to insulate them from each other. If they didn't, what would happen is you'd have an arc coming between these two, and they would short circuit the energy and it would never get to the source.
Oh, okay.
And so insulators for humans are faith. Faith in self, faith in other people, and faith in what I call a generative force. And the reason I call it a generative force is because nobody doubts that there's a generative force. The only controversy is what that is.
Right, exactly. Very good point.
And so if we have faith in ourselves and faith in other people and faith in something bigger than ourselves, then we have that insulation. So when times get tough, we can move. We can still move forward.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Faith in self, to answer that question, faith in self is what allows us to have the other two forms of faith. If we don't have faith in self, we don't have faith in other people either. Why? Because we haven't been discerning enough in connecting with other people. They disappoint us, so we don't believe in ourselves, we don't believe in them. And if we don't believe in ourselves or other people, how then can we look at the generative source and say that's generative as opposed to punitive?
Okay. The traps that stop the law of abundance, that's really important. First is trust the wrong people.
Yeah.
We've all done that.
Exactly, and that's an example of that. That's an example of not being discerning enough, of trusting ourselves to be discerning, to know who to trust and who not to trust. We can't trust everybody.
No.
And when we know who we can and who we can't, then we can learn to be more discerning, and we have better results.
Absolutely. Teach people the wrong lessons.
We teach people how to treat us.
Oh.
And if we teach people that it's okay for you to be rude to me, if I don't
yell at me, or
if I don't speak up when someone's being rude, when I don't speak up when someone's being irresponsible and undisciplined, if I don't say anything about it, if I don't assert my own boundaries and say that's not all right with me, I'm teaching them that that's all right.
Okay. Expect others to read your mind. This is very common in relationships especially, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a level of development we haven't gotten to yet. Nobody can read minds. And if I expect...
Some people think they can and they charge for it.
Some people think they can, but nobody can really actually read people's minds.
Right.
And so if we're expecting people to know what we need without telling them what we need, if we expect them to know what we like and don't like without us telling them, then we're going to have some problems in relationships.
Not trusting self.
Again, we don't trust ourselves because we haven't been discerning. We've had poor outcomes. We don't trust ourselves because we choose to look at failures as opposed to successes.
Right, right.
And that's a big factor. So it's changing your focus.
What are the 3 things you'd like people to remember about the law of abundance, the most important things?
The most important things is that your goal has to be crystal clear. You have to know where you're headed, and that has to be very clear. Follow your passion. Do what you love. Do what's important to you. Don't listen to other people's opinions because everybody has a different. Everybody has one, and some are good and some aren't. So trust yourself.
And you were going to say third.
And the third one would be to trust the source. Trust that that law is absolutely predictable absolutely infallible, and if you understand it and you follow it and you allow it to, you align it with your goals, you're going to get your outcomes.
Law of energies. And then I want to know how you're living smart, because you're obviously writing a book of the law of abundance, so you must know something.
Well, I'm still learning. We all are. To me, living smart is stepping into that place of joy. What put me on my path is Henry David Thoreau's quote, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation."
And they leave without a song in them or something like that?
And that isn't all right with me. I think we need to live lives of joyous celebration.
Beautiful.
And when we are in a place that we are living lives of joyous celebration, whatever that looks like for us, then we're living smart.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sherry Buffington. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you. And thank you for joining us. To learn more about the law of abundance, go to our website. There you'll find a complete resource list. You can also email us or call us with your comments at 713-743-8513. And that's our show for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to live smart. I'm Patricia Gras. Have an abundant week. Thank you.
For a transcript of this program, send $6.95 to the address on your screen. Please include the name of the guest.